Let's get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The J Reels Podcast.
Why don't you wait until July 1st to make an announcement? What a disgrace. He can rack up all these numbers in October, November, and December, but what really counts is let me see this in January.
The sports rebel without a pause, delivering fast-paced, jam-packed sports talk like no other.
Listen, I gotta call it as I see it. He is not a good player. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with the disappointment of this franchise. When does it stop? And yes, another winter that I can sleep in peace. Coming correct, directed in full effect. Let's get it.
This is the J Reels Podcast. Welcome aboard.
What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, in excellent spirits as we get ready to close out another month. July is about to expire in the next 4 days, but the podcast won't expire because whatever's happening in the world of sports, you know I got you covered as this. It's the J Reels Podcast with Joe J Reels. For my first timers, welcome aboard. And for those who've been banging with me going back to the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, even as early as this past Thursday, I welcome you guys and gals back. And now as we get closer to the month of August and we get set to turn the calendar, now we still have another podcast to go this coming Thursday, 11 a.m. and also a live stream, high noon on Wednesday. So we still got plenty to cover here over the next few days before we say goodbye to July. And my guy, Mark Salmon, shows up again. Yes, I'll give him a shout out there. What's happening, Mark? But with August out in the horizon, hovering over us, getting ready to usher in the 8th month of the year, a week from today is also the trade deadline in Major League Baseball, and that's where I'm going to begin. Because, Bio, greetings to you, my man. Because as much as we can talk about pennant races, as much as we could talk about what's happened in the standings here in both the divisions, NL West, and even NL Central not included, and the wild card scenario goes, which you know I'll get into, the bottom line is this. We still have a week to go in order for teams to jockey for position, to try to get themselves to a point where they're going to put themselves in either the middle of the pennant race, get themselves back into a pennant race, or bring in reinforcements to solidify whether a 1 or 2 seed and be deemed as contenders in Major League Baseball. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. Because when we take a 30,000-foot view, and I understand we still have a week, and one trade has been made, which I'm going to get into, where the Red Sox, I thought, may have made a bit of a mistake. But that'll come to you momentarily. But to start us off here, I think over the course of the next 7 days, and obviously we have plenty of time to chew on, whether it be Wednesday's live stream, whether it's Thursday's podcast, and obviously a week from today, whatever's going to transpire over the weekend, you know that that's going to be front and center when it comes to what is going on with the landscape as far as baseball is concerned. As I'm clicking off stuff on my laptop here, so you got to just bear with me for a moment. Hopefully this doesn't cancel me out here. All right. You guys can see and hear me. Can you in the chat room? Again, I had to reboot here. And Waffle Iron, a.k.a. Tatsuya Mai, a.k.a. Rhoda Penmark, a.k.a. Minnesota Fats, a.k.a. Fuqua Johnson. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I had to reboot here because something was happening. Audio video is good. All right, great. Thank you, Waffle Line. And yes, thank you, Bio. Thank you. I appreciate the confirmation there. And yes, Waffle Line, I'm going to get to that in a moment. Let me get through my baseball segment and we'll talk about Saturday night, which will be interesting. So now as I get my bearing set, we're going to look at the buyers, we're going to look at the sellers and all that because they're going to be contributing factors to this. And to me, how I look at it is when it comes to the buyers, look at what the Brewers did recently. They acquired Lance McCullers Jr. from the Houston Astros, which to me, that's a typical Brewer mid-market move to where they're not going to go after someone big. They're not going to try to bring in an, oh, wow, a needle mover, so to speak, to their team. They're going to go low end and see, hey, throw it to the wall, see if it sticks. And obviously with McCullers, it didn't because they already DFA'd him. And that's the difference between a team like the Brewers or a team like the Dodgers. And I'm only going to get to the Dodgers for this reason only, because there's going to be a lot of Tarek Skubal rumors, and if the Dodgers will go ahead and try to procure him at the deadline and what the Dodgers may do. And I think the Dodgers, and Bio, who is a huge Dodger fan, living out there in sunny LA, I don't think the Dodgers need to do anything. I've seen them a lot here over the last 2 weekends. Obviously, this past weekend at Citi Field, which I'll get to momentarily, and then the weekend prior when they were at Yankee Stadium. And yes, they do have to get some pitchers on the mend, which to me, that would automatically look like a trade, whether it's Blake Snell, whether it's Tyler Glasnow, even Edwin Diaz. And I understand players could get hurt. You want to bring in reinforcements. I understand that. But the Dodgers right now, I think that they are perfectly fine. They have the best record in the sport, albeit a half game ahead of the Brewers, which is interesting. But an interesting point there, Waffle Line. I'm sure maybe Bio could back that up as far as the Dodgers needing a right-handed bat. But the Dodgers, I think, in the grand scheme of things, they're going to be fine. It's the other teams. What are the Philadelphia Phillies going to do? And I think they have to be a buyer. They're going to have to bring in another starting pitcher because Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler is not going to be enough. Yes, that's a very good top two of your rotation, especially in a short series. But you want to have a good third starter. Dare I even say a fourth starter? Because Aaron Nola, to me, isn't cutting it. And anybody else after that, listen, when you get to a league championship series and a World Series, if you get that far, that's when you're going to need the depth of your starting rotation. And you're not going to want to fool around with having to bring back Christopher Sanchez on 3 days rest or Zach Wheeler, who's coming off of a thoracic outlet syndrome. And although he's pitched well and he's been phenomenal, but you're not going to roll the dice there to have to get to October and save your season for a series there. You're going to have to do it, but that means that you're going to have to compromise your rotation moving forward if that's going to be the case. So the Phillies, I would see them being big buyers, and I could see them trying to get a starting pitcher. The Brewers, I would think they're going to probably do the same when you have a guy like Jacob Misiorowski, who obviously is going to be the ace of that staff, but I think they still need another starter or two. I don't think they're going to dabble in a Tarek Skubal sweepstakes if there is one. And even though we saw Milwaukee many moons ago with CC Sabathia, I don't think Tarek Skubal is going to be at least in their radar or on their radar for them to bring. And you would think it should be, considering what happened last year when they got smoked by the Dodgers in the championship series. But those are the two teams I'm looking at there, whether it's Brewers, Phillies. We could talk about the teams that are in between, whether that's the Cubs. Well, the Cubs aren't really in between because we think that they're going to be in the playoffs. But what will they do come the deadline? Because I also think that they need another bat and even another starting pitcher for that matter. And the Cubs, I'm sure they're going to try to wheel and deal to see what they could do to at least get themselves in a position to where maybe they can make a run in the postseason. Last year, they beat the Padres and then got throttled in 5 against the Brewers, as you know. But those three teams aside, I don't know if Arizona's going to make a move. I don't know if the Pirates are going to make a move. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to make a move. And those are teams that should make moves. They're in the thick of the wild card race in the National League. But the Pirates, this is almost uncharted territory. And for the Diamondbacks, I get it. They made it to a World Series a few years ago, but it's still kind of uncharted territory for them. It's not as if they're going to be wheeling and dealing, at least so we don't think that they're going to do so. But this is the time to do it. And the reason why it's the time to do it is more of a big picture thing, which I'll get to. So I'm going to leave the suspense there for a moment. But as I conclude with the National League, after those teams, we know that they're going to be sellers, whether it's the Rockies, whether it's the Mets, and even Freddie Peralta was asked yesterday, was this maybe your final start? And he would still have one more start left. But I think that if he's going to get traded in the next few days, that he could start for a team going into the weekend as opposed to, let's say, making his next start on Friday against the Marlins after another dreadful performance yesterday, where if he does get traded to another team, he could just go to that team and be put right into the rotation. And even Peralta came out to say that he certainly did not do well and should have done better. In fact, what was his quote? I got that here, if you bear with me for a second. Yeah, that I've let the Mets down. And he certainly has. And you know how much I've felt about his tenure here in New York. But I think the Mets should be and will be sellers. And we could break down the parameters of the players, et cetera, me being a huge Met fan. But now I'll spare you that for right now. But we know that they should be a seller. We know the Rockies, maybe their catcher Hunter Goodwin, who has a lot of pop. And if I'm the Rockies, I wouldn't trade him. But if you're going to get a boatload, whether that means of prospects or young players back, and Goodwin, I believe, is signed through for another couple more years, you want to keep that guy in the mix. But if you get a Godfather offer, obviously it's a situation where, hey, what the hell? If we're going to get younger prospects, if we're going to get players that we could certainly build for the future, then you know what? Chances are they should probably do it. Them, even the Reds, although I know they're, 6.5 back, but they're 8 or 9 games under 500. I'm not going to look at them as a threat to the wild card just yet, but I would look for them to sell. If I could, why not? I know Terry Francona's there, the manager, and this is a team that made it to the playoffs last year, thanks to the Mets, of course. But things haven't clicked this year. So if I'm the Reds, I would look to sell. And if you're the other teams that are looking to buy in the National League, well, that's the Padres, and we can talk about Mason Miller in a moment. I don't know what the Padres are going to do, but they're in the thick of the wild card. You would think maybe they'll make a move here or there and not sell Mason Miller to the highest bidder. But what are the Nationals going to do, considering that they're right in the thick of things? And not only that, even a team like the Marlins, who have been in a free fall, losing 12 straight, a franchise record, that after beating the Mariners 2 weeks ago this past Thursday, they have not won a game since, and that's dating back to July 9th. And here we are on the 27th. And I get you had an all-star break in between, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better for the Marlins because they have the Phillies coming to town. And who's pitching tonight for the Phils? The aforementioned Zach Wheeler. So the Marlins, who looked like they were flying high and were tied there in the National League East, second place with the Phillies, and are currently 3 games behind them in the standings. Well, this is a monumental series for them. Minimum, they have to win 2 games if they want to at least hang around. If they get swept here, you could pretty much say goodbye to the Marlins this year. And that'd be a shame because earlier this month, they had 10 games over 500. And if they get swept here, lose 2 out of 3, then I have to really wonder about my 72.5, which obviously it's not a huge deal. So what's going to happen here over the course of the next week? We'd expect the Phillies. We'd expect the Brewers. We'd expect maybe the Padres. And if I'm them, I wouldn't trade Mason Miller unless it's a Godfather offer. If the Yankees are saying we'll give you all of our farm system, that would include the shortstop, George Lombard Jr., that would include Jason Dominguez, Spencer Jones, Curtis LaGrange, of course not Cam Schlittler. You want to throw in Anthony Volpe? Why not? Not that they need a shortstop because they got Xander Bogaerts there, but you want to give them 5 players for that one reliever in Mason Miller that could put them into a World Series. Would the Yankees do that if you're Brian Cashman? I think it's going to be too rich for their blood, but you want to win a World Series? You want to go all out? Well, this is what you have to do. So, and with the National League, I don't know about the Nationals. I understand they had that trade with the Red Sox, which I guess maybe I'll get to right now, considering that we're talking about the Nationals. I thought that was a smart move by them. Now, Curtis Mead, who I understand has provided a lot of pop this year, infielder, has hit, I believe, 17 home runs, and the Red Sox need offense. They do. But they gave up a young left-handed pitcher, and I understand they have another young left-handed pitcher in their rotation, or a guy that certainly will be in the rotation for years to come, that being Peyton Tolley. But the last thing you want to do if you're the Red Sox, and I get it, you have to give up something to get something. If they got back C.J. Abrams in the deal, that's a no-brainer. If they got back James Wood in the deal, please, you would drive him from Boston to the nation's capital. Curtis Mead, all right. He's done well this year. He's provided a lot of pop. That national offense has been, crazy as it to say, a potent offense and one of the top-ranked offenses in the sport. But to me, still a bit of an unknown and still a bit unproven. And yes, you could say the same for Conley early. I get it. You can't base everything on potential. But a left-handed starter, which they do not grow on trees, and I get it that they already have Garrett Crochet when healthy is one of the best pitchers in the sport. And I just mentioned Peyton Tolley. They also have Ranger Suarez, another lefty, and maybe they probably thought they were lefty dominant. We could dangle him for Curtis Mead. I would have liked a guy that had a little bit more potential, a little bit more ilk as far as, wow, that's a guy that I could see why they traded a one-on-one for. Curtis Mead, again, the jury's still out, if you ask me, in my opinion. But the Nationals made that deal, so they got some pitching, and I'm sure they're going to slot early right into that rotation because the Nationals pitching is abysmal. So, and that's the first domino, albeit not a big domino, but certainly enough a domino that has fallen here for both teams that are in both pennant races, and I'll get to the American League in a minute. But the National League, that's pretty much it because, again, I don't see the Rockies. They're going to be sellers, like I mentioned. Who knows what's going to happen with the Diamondbacks, what they're going to do as far as try to bring in talent, considering that they're in the middle of things. I'm just reading some headlines here. All right. So now we have a scenario where the National League, although the West is already done as well as the Central, you're pretty much looking at the East between the Braves and Phillies and the wild card, as we talked about there on Thursday's podcast. You got 6 teams battling out for one spot. And which one of those 6 teams are going to step up here? That's going to be the big thing. And even the Giants, it's another team I forgot that they're going to be sellers. And I know a lot about Matt Chapman. Val, I know you're out there. Who knows with Chapman? To me, he has still, I believe, 3 more years left on his deal at $20 to $25 million. I wouldn't touch him. I understand he's a very good glove, and he is a productive at-bat. Gotten off to a terrible start this year offensively, but it's certainly a come around and was on the IL. And I believe he's coming off, as he hasn't been out already, but the Giants are going to be a team to try to part players. Who knows? Maybe even Willie Adames. I don't know. They just signed him prior to last year, and he still has 5 more years left on his deal. I wouldn't touch him if I'm any team. I don't care what he provides. And then he's another one. Also a slow start and has actually picked up his offense a little bit as of late. Cheers, H2O, for those watching on YouTube and later on Spotify. But with the National League, that's what we're looking at here as far as those teams that are going to try to put themselves in a position. I don't see Pirates, even Cardinals for that matter, although they are a little bit more reputable as far as making deals. And I wouldn't be shocked if they made a deal that's going to put them in the thrust of this wild card scenario. But all the other teams outside of that, whether that's Marlins, Nationals, Pirates, I can see the Cubs making a deal. I don't know about the Diamondbacks, maybe a little fringe deal in the Lance McCullers category. To me, I'm going to see Phillies, Brewers. I'm not even going to include the Dodgers. And maybe the Braves may have something up the sleeve with Tarek Skubal. I can't forget the Braves. Because just because they're in first place, and even with the Phillies trying to breathe down their necks, I'm sure that they're going to want to bring in some sort of reinforcement there, at least to their rotation, and maybe to their offense too. Austin Riley, who has regressed big time, but I don't think they're going to replace him considering he still has a ton of years left on a big deal he signed many years ago. But I would think the Braves also throw their hat in the ring to see what they could do to bolster their chances in the National League. And as far as the American League goes, I get it. It's even more of a logjam there with the wild card picture. But as we take a look at what's going on there, obviously the Yankees are going to be big-time players here. They're going to do something to fortify that bullpen, whether that's Mason Miller, that remains to be seen. Now with Cody Bellinger on the IL to go along with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, you talk about anemic. I mean, I don't know how they're going to be able to score runs in bunches here without the likes of those 3 guys. And obviously we haven't seen Giancarlo since April, and Aaron Judge since the end of May. So the Yankees are going to probably play a lot of 4-3, 3-2, 2-1 games here. And it's not to say they lack punch because they bring up Spencer Jones. Let's see what he does here in his second go-around with the pinstripes. And then Jason Dominguez, if he could add anything, we know that Trent Grisham and Paul Goldschmidt and guys like that, Austin Wells, who has some pop but has been just a terrible offensive player this year. And who knows, he could be jettisoned too as they try to bring in a right-handed bat, in particular a catcher. So, the Yankees are going to make some moves here over the course of the next week. But to me, the big and the most intriguing aspect of the American League is, what are the Rays going to do? What are the White Sox going to do? We would think that the Mariners and the Rangers, who the Rangers won the first 2 games of that 4-game series, which will conclude in Texas today. And if the Rangers win today, that means they'll gain 2 games in the standings. They're currently a game and a half ahead of the Mariners, and it'll be 2.5 if they do win today. Now, the Mariners won yesterday. And I'll go through the landscape of Major League Baseball in a moment. But with the Rangers winning today, they'll have not a sizable lead, but hey, they start off the weekend a half game back, and they're going to be 2.5 when it's all said and done. So give them credit. But what will they do? What will the Mariners do? They have to do something, and they've underachieved big time. I know we can talk about the Guardians, but I don't expect them to do anything despite the fact that they are in second place right now. I believe they're 2.5 behind the White Sox because they got swept over the weekend in Tampa. Now, the intriguing question is the Tigers, and which leads to the other question, which I'm about to unpack now. I know last week I said if I'm the Tigers, I would trade Tarik Skubal because you got to get something back. I know that they're in the race in the wild card and outside shot for the division, but they're 8 games on the 500. Let me get an accurate count here. The Tigers, they're actually 6 games back. My apologies. 6 in the division, but in the wild card, they're 3.5 back and 3 in the loss. And with the Guardians and even the Twins ahead of them, and I'm sure they got a ton of games left. So not to say they have destiny in their own hands, but because the 2 teams in the division and they still got to leapfrog over Seattle, Houston, and Baltimore in the process, you would think, and based on what I've read and heard from the J-Rods of the world in the chat room who lives in Michigan, among others, that they're going to keep Skubal for the stretch run. And you know what? I have to do a 180 and say, yes, I'm going to keep him. For one, the obvious reason, because they're in the race. And I thought to trade him, as I said last week, would probably be the smarter thing to do because at least you get something back. Now, to get a Godfather offer, I'm sure that they would then ship Skubal to whichever that destination may be. But here's the other reason why I would keep him. We don't know what's going to happen with the CBA, and this could also apply to everybody else in Major League Baseball for that matter. To make these deals, even if you are the Pirates, even if you are the Marlins, even if you are the Nationals, teams like that, the Twins. Because the CBA, moving forward, although it's unknown, it's a big, giant question mark. But let's just say that the owners stand pat, and I understand the players are going to do the same too. But now there's going to be a ceiling and a floor when it comes to the salary structure of the sport, where the most that a player is going to get is a 6-year deal if they stay with that team. So, right, the money could be 6 years, $240 million, which is, $40 million a year. Now, if you're Tarik Skubal and you're the Detroit Tigers, you're going to take that. At least you would think. Now, unless you're going to have the Dodgers or some of the other team, and I believe even if it was, let's say, the Dodgers to step in, they could only offer him 5 years. Now, they can increase the annual value of the contract. So if they want to go 5 for, let's say, see if I get my math correct. Now, this is exorbitant, but let's say if it's 5 for 35 and do the division there, that's going to be 60 plus, where he's going to take the 60 plus in one less year, then the 40 for 240 with the one extra year. But here's my point. If the salary structure does change to the point where the max contract could be 6 years, if you're the Tigers, keep him. Why not? because you don't have to worry about having to hand out the 8-year, 10-year, dare I even say 12-year contract. And that goes for the rest of baseball, because they don't have to worry about having to deal with that 10-year, $300, $400, $500 million contract where it's just going to hamstring the small market team. Now, the small markets have to pony up, because if there's a ceiling, there has to be a floor too. So just because you're a team that's going to penny pinch and not go all out because, oh, well, we can't afford X player or these players, et cetera. No, now you got to come up to that floor, which means that with the way, if it does happen to go in that route, which I hope it does because the sport needs it in the worst way. But if the Pirates, the Tigers, the Rockies, the Royals, etc., yes, they could come up and say, we could go after a guy like Tarek Skubal, or we could say, here is 5 years at $300 million, or 5 years at $200 million, where it's $40 million a year. Not to say that player is going to go to Kansas City or Colorado, but at least they could conduct business with those agents, with those players, to at least be in the running to get that pitcher or that position player, etc. And that's why I changed my tune, which, hey, listen, I'm entitled, right? Last week I may have said, no, you got to trade him. Now I say keep him. I get it that we don't know what the lay of the land is going to be when it comes to the CBA. But I truly, firmly believe in my gut that there will be an adjustment made. I understand it's not going to be called a salary cap, but if what the owners are offering, as much as the players are stiff-arming it, I believe they're going to come to some agreement where it's going to have to be done. Look what it's done for the other sports. Listen, the NBA, you're going to have a $100 million player probably in 5 years. That's going to be Wemby. I know Wemby just signed that extension, 5 for $252? Well, that next one is going to be 5 for probably $500 million. Okay? And he's going to be 27 years of age when that contract expires. So for baseball, you're going to get a similar scenario. You're going to get let's just say you get a 19-year-old that comes up and he performs like Juan Soto, and he's 26 years of age, and he goes out in the free market after those 6 years, or however that's going to be, because I'm sure they're probably going to, the players are going to want to say, all right, well, we don't have to wait 6 years for free agency. We want to wait 4 years, which the owners may have to capitulate because they have to give the players something, or maybe even 3 years of service where they're going to have to get that money. Man, who knows? But, and here I'm talking about labor stuff, which I want to get to other things, but this factors into the grand scheme of things. And I think that whomever is in the playoff hunt, and here's the point, whomever's in the playoff hunt, whether you're a mid-market team, and even though the White Sox play in a big market, but they act like a mid-market team, or the Tigers, or the Guardians, or if you're a small market team, Kansas City, I understand not Colorado, they're not going to be trading for big-time players, but you get my point. Yeah, everybody should be fair game. And it should be a situation where those teams should go all in. And if I bring another mid-market team, I want to say the Pirates, because they're in the middle of the wild card chase. They should go out and get these guys. There should be no hesitation to say, you know what, let's try to go after Tarek Skubal. Or even the Rays. Rays should go out there and get anybody right now, because all they have to do is worry about the last part of the season. And once December 1st comes and goes, and you could only hope that the owners will get the deal that they want. I understand it's not going to be called a salary cap. And then maybe the Rays could retain that player and not have to pay a high 9-figure deal or a mid 9-figure deal. Maybe it's a low 9-figure deal. End of story. But with the American League, if you're the Guardians, the Twins, the Tigers, I mean, Houston, they'll spend money in their two-back. Orioles, Red Sox, they already made one trade. I'm sure there's going to be another one coming down too. I mean, these teams, they're no-brainers. They should be making deals, not to say they got to give up the farm or trade as if they're trading baseball cards. Like, all right, I'm going to give you so-and-so for like these 5 players. No, nothing to that degree, but come on. We don't want to see these Kmart deals with these low-level teams where the big boys on the block, they're the ones that are making the blockbuster deals. And that's what's wrong with the sport, as we all know. But to encapsulate all this and then to get to what happened over the weekend, et cetera, especially with the American League, Yankees, Red Sox are going to make moves. I would think the Astros, despite them being 3 under 500, would you be shocked if they don't put themselves in a position where they bring in a player or two? I wouldn't. The Orioles, listen, they've underachieved offensively. Their plays have regressed. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday, even Adley Rutschman. I mean, those are guys that were core guys that were supposed to bring the pain offensively, and they haven't. Imagine what that team would be like without Pete Alonso, huh? I kind of wonder what that would be like. A team without a guy like Pete Alonso. Ay. So the American League, and with the Mariners, they're going to make a move. The Twins would be fascinating from that regard. They're 1 game back, 1 game under 500, and they've actually done pretty well here, considering. But here's the next week with the trade deadline, what is going to transpire, what will take place. I know it's going to be fascinating. I know I'll be all over it. Obviously, with Wednesday's live stream and Thursday's podcast, I got you covered, and even next Monday, because I'm sure there are going to be a bunch of deals going into the weekend, so that we shall stay tuned for. Now, as far as the sport overall, with the series over the weekend, Yankees win 2 out of 3 in Philly. They lose last night. They get blown out. So what? Cam Schlittler, who right now is a front runner for the AL Cy Young Award. I mean, the guy's been lights out. He struck out 12 in 7 1/3, 3 hits, no walks. I mean, come on. I mean, the guy's just been money. But here's the thing. And yes, we did see that against against the Red Sox in the wild card round, game 3. But it'll be interesting to see if the Yankees somehow, some way do not win a division, which means that they will have to go on the road in the wild card. And this is something, a receipt for down the road. Would Cam Schlittler start game 1 of a postseason series? Or at least a wild card? He's going to have to. Those games are on the road. It's not as if he's going to have a home game. But for him to start game 1, because obviously with Garrett Cole, you would think he's been around the block several times. You would probably trust him more, where if Cam Schlittler loses game 1, considering the type of year he's had, now that puts pressure on Cole, who has not been the most clutch postseason performer as far as the starter goes. Something to think about as we get down the road. I know it's not for today, but hang on to that receipt. But they win 2 out of 3. Now the Yankees have an interesting week. They go to Chicago for the entire week. White Sox for 4, Cubs for 3. 2 teams that I think they're going to try to make some moves here. And the White Sox, who although salvaged the 3rd game of that series in New York against the Yankees about a month and a half ago, were embarrassed in those first 2 games. So now, very interesting measuring stick for the White Sox. In first place, Yankees coming to town, battered, beaten a little bit with their lineup in shambles. Let's see how they fare against the Bombers. And then obviously they go to Wrigley after that into the weekend. So something to keep in mind there. I know I talked about the Marlins with the 12-game losing streak. They play the Phillies. I'll just leave it at that because it's not about the Marlins. I know I have this thing with them only because of the over-under. But as far as other things that are happening over the weekend, you know about the Mariners and the Rangers. To me, it's a big game for the Mariners. They don't want to go 2.5 in these standings, at least for me. And I understand that they're still within striking distance. They're a team that from one day to, or 1 week to the next, they could then all of a sudden be in first place and the Rangers could regress. Understood, but that division is up for grabs, even if the Rangers were to win today. And with the series being in Texas, you would think that they would win. And what's the pitching matchup? Let me take a look at that. I believe George Kirby's pitching today, is he not? George Kirby versus Kumar Rocker. All right. Afternoon game, 2:35. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Tampa sweeping Cleveland, which was a hit for the Guardians because they fall back in the division a couple of games. And now the Rays are finding their stride here as they gain a game over the weekend with the Yankees losing last night. Dodgers beat the Mets 2 out of 3. The Mets salvaged the game yesterday. And I will say this. I'll say this now. For the game on Saturday, I went Saturday night and I got an invite. And this is for the guys in the room. I got an invite from none other than Mr. AKA. I guess I'll call him that. Waffle Iron Walrus. Of course, you know him as Fuqua Johnson, as well as Rhoda Penmark, Minnesota Fats, Kai Bowie Bull, Dad's Chips, Everyday Mets, Jonathan Sean Cup, Tatsuya Mai, etc. He actually invited me Saturday night to watch the Mets lose to the Dodgers. And even though the Mets had a little comeback there in the 8th inning with a 2-run single by Tyrone Taylor, who could be on the move, and he's actually performed well here. But to meet a follower and a big-time supporter of the podcast and the channel, etc., it was a pleasure. Peter, salute to you. Thank you. And, of course, hopefully that'll be the first of many games we get together and watch. So, and I also have pictures and video. I'll share that at some point. Maybe I'll share it on Wednesday because I'll connect it and put it up there. Podcast, obviously, is a little bit more interactive. Not to say that the podcast here isn't. I'll get to all your comments, questions, etc. in the second hour. So for those who are on right now, and I appreciate you hanging on, hang tight because I got plenty to discuss here before I move on to other things. And I'm looking at it here. Oh, I didn't see Bryce Harper on Mookie Betts' podcast. I got to check that out. And Harper did say that. Well, Harper is, to me, he's like the poster child for the Players Union. He's the de facto president of the MLB. And, yeah, we could definitely touch on that. I'll touch on that a little bit later on. And I'm glad you brought that up there, Bio. So thanks for that. But I'll get to all the comments, I promise, afterwards. So stand pat. Hang on for that. But to go back to what else is happening in baseball, well, at least what happened over the weekend. After winning 15 in a row and losing that final game against the Orioles, Red Sox won 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays. And to me, it's crazy. The Blue Jays are 5.5 back in the wild card in the American League, and they're 10 games under 500. Do I need to say any more? Yeah, other than that, I mean, that's your weekend in a nutshell. I mean, the Astros took 2 out of 3 in Chicago against the White Sox. Here are the games for the week. Or the early part of the week. Seattle at Texas, you know. Arizona at Pittsburgh. All right. Not a sexy 5-star series, but two teams that are battling out for one another in the wild card, which I'll get to. I'll break it down momentarily. Baltimore, Detroit. That's another big game. Big series for teams battling it out. Philadelphia, Miami. I get it. This isn't Dodgers, Yankees or Dodgers, Phillies, but these are some interesting matchups. Philly, Miami. The Battle of Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Atlanta playing the Mets. Yankees in Chicago, as you know. Cubs in St. Louis. There you go. You're talking about battling out for a wild card. Houston at LA to play the Angels. Boston at Athletics, and Milwaukee, San Francisco. Obviously, those series not going to mean too much. And if any of the series, Texas at Tampa Bay tomorrow with those two teams. Well, Tampa has off today. Texas playing and they'll fly to Tampa. Toronto at Washington. I did mention that. Kansas City, Minnesota. Not for the Royals, but for Minnesota Twins. And then you have Seattle with both the day off. They're playing in LA, facing off against the Dodgers tomorrow. Now, here are your wild card standings. We know about the divisions in the Central and West of the National League. In the NL East, now the Braves have a 6-in-a-loss, 5.5 game lead. So right now they're in good stead. Wild card in the National League is as follows. You have Cubs with the 4th spot, Phillies with the 5th spot. They are 2.5 behind the Cubs. Diamondbacks have the last spot right now in the National League, the 6th spot at 55 and 51. Who's right behind them? 1 game back, 2 teams. Nationals and Pirates. Arizona, Pittsburgh. That's why. Interesting series. We'll keep an eye on that. Then you have the Cardinals, a game and a half back of the Diamondbacks. The Padres and Marlins, 2 and 3 back. And the Reds are 6 under 5 back. I guess I'll throw them in there. Think about this. The Marlins have lost 12 in a row, just like the Mets did earlier, and they're 2 games or 3 games behind the wild card. But it helped when they were 10 games over. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, as far as the American League goes, we know that the Rays have a 3-game lead over the Yanks in the East. White Sox 2.5 over the Guardians, 3.5 over the Twins, 6 over the Tigers. And then you know about Texas, Seattle. Astros are 2 back. Got to keep that in mind in the West. As far as the wild card goes, it is a jumbled mess with the Yankees 4.5 ahead of the Red Sox. Yankees in 4th place. Red Sox 5. Guardians have the final spot, 6th seed in the AL. Twins a game back. Seattle game and a half back. Astros 2 back. Orioles 2.5 back. Tigers 3.5 back. And I'll throw in the Blue Jays, although 10 under, 5.5 back. So, yeah. That is a battle royale in the American League. And the National League got a little something, too. So those races, hopefully they'll last us through the summer. As I mentioned from the top, the trade deadline, we know which teams we think will be in play to make moves. The other teams, we'll have to wait and see. But we'll assess it. We'll rehash it, do all that as we get deeper into the week, come Wednesday, come Thursday, and certainly next Monday when we'll be hours away from the deadline coming and going. So that's your Major League Baseball. Is there anything else I need to add? Yeah, talk about Bellinger. Yeah. All right, Juan Soto with a left calf strain. Who knows how long he's going to be out? I mean, the Mets are going nowhere, as we know. And Salvador Perez did top George Brett as the all-time franchise leader in home runs for the Royals, hitting a home run there against the Tigers. I believe that was yesterday. So congratulations to Salvador Perez. All right, so baseball took a big chunk of that. Let's go through some comments. Should I go through that now? Mark Sammons, what did LeBron mean when he said ain't no party like 4 years ago? Listen, you could interpret that however you want to interpret that there, Mark. But yeah. All right, and speaking of LeBron, let's get to the NBAs that lace up the high tops. Now, I know it was unpopular in my opinion, and I got to get back to all your comments on YouTube, people, so my apologies. So for those who did write and leave comments, trust me, I will follow up. So LeBron goes to Philly, 2 years, $8 million. I was surprised it was a two-year deal. LeBron's not going away anytime soon. All right, fine. It's all good. But here's what I don't understand. People were outraged, whether social media and beyond. Oh, look at LeBron ring chasing. Oh, look at him. Of course, the safe spot, Philly. I mean, God, where was he going? New Orleans? He's going to Utah? Oh, who are we kidding? So if he would have went to Miami or Cleveland, that would have been fine, considering that Miami got Giannis, and he would have teamed up if it was going back home to Cleveland, which would have been accepted. I get it, from Akron and so on and so forth. But to team up with Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and James Harden, that would have been cool. But because he goes to Philly and because they got Jaylen Brown and so on and so forth, oh, I can't look at him ring chasing. Jordan would have never done that. Bird would have never done that. Stop it. He wasn't going to Sacramento. Oh, if he would have went to Golden State, that would have been fine because he would have teamed up with Steph Curry. To me, come on. And trust me, I'm not one to break out the LeBron pom-poms. I got mad respect for him. All-time great. He's an immortal player. But I laugh at these comments that these people have said. Come on. What are we doing? And then the flip side of that, Rich Paul, oh, this was an emotional roller coaster. Oh, this was right up to the last minute. Come on. Rich Paul, you serious? An emotional roller coaster because he looked at the lay of the land. Oh, he could have played with Steph. Oh, he could have gone back home to Cleveland. Oh, he could have gone and reunited with Pat Riley down in Miami. And Philly, it was tough. I don't want to hear that. In fact, nobody wants to hear that. No one. What? It was tough because he had to come back east? that he was going to be away from his family, so on and so forth. That I thought uproot part of his family. I'm sure they're probably not going to do that. His home base is in Malibu or Brentwood, etc. Stop it. And maybe, listen, to a certain extent, right, when you have to choose a team, I'm not trying to say that it wasn't a challenge for LeBron or it wasn't a situation where, wow, what's the best fit? I'm sure maybe he was tempted to go back to Cleveland, but maybe Dan Gilbert and the specter of him hanging over is like, nah, I don't want to go there. Been there, done that. And the same can be said for Miami. Been there, done that. I won 2 titles, won the 4 straight NBA finals. And that's, to me, that's why I thought he didn't want to go back. Philly, they haven't won a title since 1983. Not to say he's the final piece, but he's certainly going to be a huge piece with his experience, his know-how, etc. But here's the thing. Now, adding KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who played with LeBron in the bubble in 2020 and won a championship, also won a title with the Nuggets in 2023. Good piece. Add some depth. But that's not going to be enough. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. As of right this very second, July 27th, 11:46 a.m., the Philadelphia 76ers are not title contenders. They're not. You can laugh. You could say, Jay Reels, you're off your rocker. Jay Reels, I'm not watching you ever again. Jay Reels, you don't know anything about sports. Jay Reels, you don't know anything about anything. I don't want to hear it. If we go through their roster right now, where's the depth? Andre Drummond, who was the backup center behind Joel Embiid. He's in New York right now because Mitchell Robinson went to Boston. Quentin Grimes, who actually did some damage against the Celtics in that first round of the playoffs. He's not there anymore. Where is he? He's in LA, LeBron's former team. So when I pull up the Sixer roster and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a guy who certainly will fit in, glue guy, unselfish, etc. Excuse me. So you got your starting 5. And let's just say, now I know you're going to say the kid from the Knicks that they got, Ariel Hockporty. Come on. All right. He'll do something, but he's not Andre Drummond, and I'm not trying to make Andre Drummond out to be Bob Lanier. Look him up. But how I look at it is that you're starting 5, so let's say it is LeBron, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. After that, all right, they got Anthony Simons, who will probably be the backup point, I guess, to Maxey. I didn't realize they signed Dean Wade. Oh, as a matter of fact, I do remember that. All right, so he'll come off the bench. Wade is hot and cold. Are you really going to, when he was with the Cavs? And KCP does add a layer. But come on. Not that you need 10, 11, 12 guys, but look at what the Knicks just did. Knicks had depth out the wazoo. And even though they took a hit this past year, or this past offseason, Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, when you see the Oklahoma City Thunder team, because they had to pay the big-time bucks to, and with the second apron, to SGA, Chet Holmgren, as well as Jalen Williams, their depth just took a hit. And the Knicks, all right, they lost Mitchell Robinson and Ariel Hockporty, all right, fine, but they did bring in Drummond, so that was pretty much a trade, Hockporty for Drummond, and you'd rather have Drummond, more years, experience, etc. All right, maybe not the youth. But the Knicks still have their team intact. They kept Alvarado. They kept Landry Shamet. They still have Deuce McBride. They bring in Drummond. I mean, they still have 9 guys. Jordan Clarkson, I believe, also resigned. They got 10 guys. Sixers have 7.5, maybe 8 guys. How's that going to be a championship team? Explain that to me. Sorry, they don't have it. I don't see it. And it's not to say they got to get 2 more guys, maybe 1 more guy to fit in with Wade and with KCP. And, I mean, Hockporty, how much are you going to expect from him? Now, think about it. Hockporty's going to be your backup if Embiid's going to be out for stretches at a time. Think about that. Now, Drummond, we know he's a serviceable NBA player. Hockporty, we didn't even know. what he can contribute on a night in, night out basis. So, Sixer fans, I get it. Your team has certainly been upgraded big time. And Joel Embiid, maybe he's somewhere overseas, whether it's getting some sort of stem cell plasma-rich platelet type of procedure, whatever it may be, in order for it to last throughout a regular season. And yes, get through 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds to get to an NBA final, which, as we all know, is no guarantee when it comes to Joel Embiid. How are they going to compete for a championship? What? All those guys are going to play 35 to 38 minutes in the regular season? Maybe even 40 with the lack of depth that they have? I mean, come on. Who are we kidding? So, for those out there that think right away that the Sixers automatically, pencil them in as Eastern Conference champs, that they're going to beat the Knicks, they're going to beat the Celtics, they're going to beat the Heat, they're going to beat all these teams. Okay. Well, I guess these guys are going to be bionic and average 38 to 40 minutes a game. I know I said 35, but let's just say 35 to 40 minutes a game. And throughout the rigors of an NBA season, and once they get to the playoffs, they're going to be gassed. We shall see. Now, there's still plenty of time to go. Still a ton of probably free agents that are fringe that maybe they could sign. I don't know what their cap situation is. As we saw with the Nuggets retaining one of their players, because I believe there was an offer sheet. I think it was the Thunder gave an offer sheet to one of their guys, and the Nuggets had to re-sign. The Nuggets, they're in the second apron. They're screwed. And who knows what that impact's going to be after this year moving forward. Because that second apron is tax hits. You don't want to get there. Why do you think the Celtics had to trade players away and pretty much revamp their team on the fly? And listen, LeBron's going to be an upgrade. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts, maybes about it. And I understand this is his last go-around. He said, it's my last decision. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see. But you figure 2 more years, by the time he's done with this contract, he's going to be 43. But all I'll say is this. The Sixers are going to be an attraction that people are going to want to watch. And even with Embiid healthy. Forget about it. You definitely want to go see him. But is this a slam dunk that they're going to be in the finals or pencil them in for a conference final next year? I don't see it. Not yet. Now, the other thing I want to touch on, and I'm going to get your comments. I see Mark has a ton. No more rings for LeBron. I promise I'll get to him. The other thing I want to get to with basketball, and Mark may want to cover his ears at this point, or maybe not. I know this past weekend, and I was at this same threshold last year at this time, where the WNBA had their All-Star break come and go, and I know they had it like a Team Spoon. I believe it's Teresa Witherspoon's team against Team Coop, which is Cynthia Cooper, 2 legends of the WNBA. And Jonquel Jones, the Liberty player, won the MVP. I bring that up because I know I have not been on top of the WNBA as I probably should be, number one. Number two, at this point, last year, I said, I'm going to follow the WNBA a lot more closer, so on and so forth. Can I promise you that this time around? I can't say I will, but I do have to do a better job. How about that? And it's my bad. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on here in this first half. Sophie Cunningham with the point. I'll get to her in a minute. The Alyssa Thomas with the throat punch. It wasn't a punch, but she had her fist in Caitlin Clark's throat. I know Caitlin Clark is a lightning rod for controversy, and I don't know too much about that, so I'm not going to unpack that. And I know I should be more on top of this. Terrible job by me. That's all I can say. And again, I'm not going to go back to the well as I did last year. I'm going to start watching more WNBA, blah, blah. I will pay more attention to it. And I will talk about it when need be. And it's not a knock on the sport, the game, etc. And I understand we're in a slow sports period. Maybe I should be more on top of it. or I should say I will be more on top of it, but maybe I should watch more so I can get a better feel and get a better understanding of what the league has done, what they're trying to do, etc. But to me, how I look at it, and there's a lot of good teams. The Lynx are, again, flying high again. And remember, the Lynx last year had the best record, and the Aces beat them. And, of course, we know the Aces won the whole thing. But with all the stuff that's happened, either on the court, controversy, and even off the court, to me, it's almost superseded the actual games itself, which kind of brings a little bit of a WWE feel. I understand it may be a bit of a stretch, but with Cunningham with the point and with Caitlin Clark always mired in some sort of, whether it's with her teammates or with opposing teams, we know about Angel Reese going back to college. It's almost as if that or those storylines supersede what happens in the actual games. At least that's from I see it on the surface. Now, I'm sure I could be wrong, and maybe I am wrong. People probably say, Jay Reels, you haven't watched Minnesota all year. And Nafisa Kali, who just came back, she had the knee injuries, and obviously made the statements about the commissioner, which I will get to momentarily. But it's almost as if the games are I don't want to say a sideshow. It's almost as if the games are an afterthought to the sideshow of what's happening on the court, where players are battling it out against one another. Am I wrong on that? Listen, if I am, please, you know me. Hand raised in the air, transparent. But I'll do my best to keep my fingers on the pulse, to be more into it. And I don't want to make a declaration, because last year I did get into it and into the playoffs, etc. And I know I should commit myself a little bit more as somebody who does this for a living and been doing it full time, as you know. So all I'll say is I'll have to do better. And maybe hold myself to a bit of a better standard as opposed to just being like, not paying it any mind. Yeah, Waffle Iron, we'll talk about that now. In fact, I'll get to that next. But the first thing I want to talk about is the commissioner. Now, I remember last year, the commissioner, and speaking of Nafisa Kali, with the comments being negligent and saying that she's the worst leader in sports history, and I'm paraphrasing there. And I know that Cathy Englebert, the commissioner of the WNBA, had a lot of bluster and a lot of bravado, especially when it came to the CBA, talking about, we're going to get a deal done. Our sport is this and our sport is that. We're going to be fine. Not even saying, hey, we're in negotiations, not taking the high road. It was almost as if she had her chest puffed out to everybody to say, yeah, I'm the commissioner and you're not. Well, I kind of wonder if she's on the hot seat, because they had this recent study where owners, executives, even players chimed in on whether or not she's fit for the job. And Adam Silver, who's her boss, and I believe has been quoted, nothing damning, nothing along the lines of like, oh, yeah, we've heard all the comments, we're going to have to reevaluate, whatever. But I'm sure he's taken notice of what's gone on. And listen, the WNBA is as popular as it's been ever. And this goes back over the last few years. Attendance has shown that. The ratings have shown that. So you can't knock it. But if Englebert's going to have this tact of being a commissioner that is going to throw it in the face of the players, or have this type of hubris to the point where it could turn off its customers, then they're going to probably have to find somebody else. And I'm not saying they're going to do that, but Engelbert right now, I believe the seat may not be hot, but it has to be a little bit warm. Has to. And for Sophie Cunningham, I know with the meme and all that, and she plays for the Indiana Fever. Obviously, it's a team that with Caitlin Clark, and I mentioned the lightning rod controversy, etc. And Cunningham, who, let's face it, now, I don't want to say she's become the face of the league. That's a little bit too strong. I believe that's still Caitlin Clark, among others, because it's not just her. I get it that she's elevated the sport to bigger and better heights, and I know that's to the chagrin of a lot of players that are currently in the league. Look at Asia Wilson, who's been a multiple MVP award winner, who's won multiple championships. You would think she would be the face of the league. And she obviously is involved with an NBA player who, right, isn't in the top 20, but everybody knows who Bam Adebayo is. And you would think she'd be the face of the league. Or maybe somebody like Sabrina Ionescu or Breanna Stewart or someone along the likes of Nafisa Collier, excuse me. Or you could name several others. Kelsey Mitchell. It's another one that you could throw in the mix. There's so many players that I'm sure when they look at Caitlin Clark to say, yeah, we know how great she is. Yes, she's elevated. But, hey, what about us? We're just as much the catalyst of this league than she is. And for Cunningham, I know she made some comments recently about protecting women's sports and being a lightning rod in her own regard where people have called her like the MAGA Barbie. I'm not going to go down that road. Please. I mean, that's whatever. And listen, she has a right to say whatever it is she wants to say. If she feels like, this is the lane, this is our lane, and that's it. All right. She has a platform. She can speak her mind. I don't have a problem with that. For her. You ask me, it could be a different story. I'm not going to unpack that just yet. But you know what? Teach his own. But I understand those comments are going to ruffle another sector, another faction of people that are going to look at her one way, fairly or unfairly. And with her being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, now being another person in the league who's cashing in on her success and her fame, as she should. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with anybody trying to. Now, you want it to be done organically. You don't want somebody to just be a heel or a villain for saying stupid things in the likes of someone like Sean Strickland, the MMA fighter, who's, again, he says what he says. God bless him, whatever. But come on. Challenging David Goggins, my guy. And of course, I got to, I love Goggins. So, I'm Team Goggins. But with that being said, it's a thing where people are going to speak their mind and people are going to interpret it how they interpret it. That's fine. Whatever. You can make up your own opinion based on whatever it is that she says in regards to that. And you know what? Hey, she has a right to do that. And is she right or wrong? It depends on how you feel. That's it. But as far as the WNBA goes, I'll just say I have to do better. A couple other things I want to get to before I sign off. Before I get to your comments. I see a lot of good ones here. As far as the NFL, we know training camps will open up in full bloom tomorrow. I know the Steelers will have the veterans come into camp. And the Steelers' latest, my endeavor, although official, don't know when I'm going to start, but I'll keep you posted as to what's going to happen there. So stay tuned for that. Now, with training camps opening, and I know the story out of the Bay Area with the Niners and Kyle Shanahan getting into that SUV accident a couple of weeks ago to where he broke his nose, his hand, some ribs, concussed. I mean, geez. Where Chris Forster, the assistant coach, is taking over, not on an interim basis. In fact, with Shanahan, his participation is limited right now as he's recovering, which is expected. And collided with, I believe it collided with another SUV. Don't know the details, whether it flipped or who knows, but thankfully he's okay. As bad as the outcome was, as we all know, could have been a whole hell of a lot worse. So I'm sure he's on the mend, and we'll see him back on the sidelines. Who knows? Will we see him toward the end of the preseason? I don't know. I'm sure they're going to try to have him recover as fast as possible. I'm sure he is in the facility working diligently. Maybe not there 18 hours a day, maybe 12, maybe who knows. But I would think we would see him by week 1. back there on the sidelines, and hopefully he'll be close to, if not 100% at that time. So obviously our thoughts go out to Coach Shanahan in that regard. Now, besides that, that's it with the NFL. I know Christian Gonzalez is probably going to be the richest cornerback in football. We'll have to wait and see on that based on what Robert Kraft said about Christian Gonzalez, the corner there, as you know, out of Ohio State. Very good corner there for the Patriots. And then I was going to get to John Tortorella. Maybe I'll talk about that. Is that important right now? Lace up my skates. Disappointed by Vegas' decision. But then in the same breath, he came out and said that, what was it? Oh, at the end of June, I'm done with Vegas. Whatever. But I want to get to boxing. And Anthony Joshua had a fight over the weekend, the heavyweight, as you know, who's looking to fight Tyson Fury, who, as we all know, is the heavyweight champ. And he fought in Saudi Arabia, got knocked down twice, really once. The second one I understand is a knockdown, but he got legitimately knocked down the first time, and that was in the first round. Well, then he knocked out his opponent in the second round, that being a one Christian Prenga. And now the talk is about whether or not Anthony Joshua is going to fight Tyson Fury for the heavyweight title. Listen, I'm so far removed from boxing. Do I still follow it? Of course. I didn't know Joshua fought this weekend. I could care less. The guy, Christian Prenga, I wouldn't know who he was if he knocked on the door right now. But we all know Tyson Fury, everybody knows who Fury is with his fights with Alexander Usyk and Deontay Wilder. And I guess as desperate as the boxing fan is looking for a fight or any fight that could have some juice, would be Fury and Joshua. Can we make this happen? Hopefully by, if not September, maybe early November, where we get a lot of those fights during that time, or at least historically. And listen, am I going to be pumped up, ready to go if they both fight? No, but as it leads into the fight, I'll be, all right, let's go. I want to see what we have here. Because boxing has lost all its luster. And even Errol Spence Jr. had to come out of retirement, and he fought on Saturday, the same day in Australia, when Joshua was fighting in Saudi Arabia. I mean, go figure. And Errol Spence lost to Tim Tszyu. And I wonder if he's related to Costa Tszyu, if you remember the fighter from back in the mid to late 90s into the 2000s. And it was unanimously, he got destroyed. And Errol Spence, listen, his last fight prior to that was 3 years ago against Terrence Crawford. I'm sure it had to be the money. And even though he didn't say that, he says, I'm fine. His finances are in order, etc. But why did he come back after 3 years only to get destroyed? I believe the cards were 118, 110, and the other two judges had a 117, 111. So Errol Spence Jr. off to the sunset yet again. And Anthony Joshua, I guess we'll have to wait and see whether or not Tyson Fury, if they could come to some sort of agreement so they could fight. Because other than that, what else do we have for boxing? Gervonta Davis, Tank, he's always in trouble. Ryan Garcia, he's not moving a needle. I mean, boxing is just an abomination. That's all there is to it. All right, let me get your comments. Yeah, so as you see here, Waffle Iron, and I'll answer that question in a moment. Yeah, Saturday night we went to the game, as you know, and I'll share more of that on Wednesday's pod. But Waffle Iron, great guy. What can I tell you? It's fun hanging out, catching up, or meeting him for the first time and talking about anything and everything, which was great. So shout out to you with all the AKAs included. Now, is Bryce Harper or LeBron the greatest signing in Philly history? The greatest signing in Philly history. Now, I'd have to go back and think about that. Now, here's the thing. If LeBron wins a title and he's instrumental in doing so, that's going to end up being the greatest signing. And not that I expect LeBron to shoulder a lot of the load here in Philly. Bryce Harper. Now, Julius Erving, I got to go back and check because there was a lot of controversy with Julius Erving. I don't think that was a trade. I think that was actually because the Nets, they sold his rights, I believe, to the Sixers. What was it, for $5 million? Maybe even less than that. So maybe you could say that was the best signing ever. You'd probably have to say Julius Erving, because let me think. Flyers. Yeah, that wasn't a big-time signing there. Yeah, if I had to say either one, I mean, say Harper only because you got him in his prime years, and he's been there now, what, 8 years? Let me think. He signed there after 18, 19, 20. He's been there 8 years. Crazy. Yeah, I'd have to say Harper now, but that could change if LeBron wins the title. And if he's instrumental. I mean, if LeBron isn't contributing, then, Dodgers need a right-hand bat. They don't have lefties well. Yeah, I mean, they don't have the guys in the past like they've had. I mean, Will Smith's been hurt. Obviously, when he comes back, you have a right-handed bat. But you don't have Chris Taylor. Why would they kick Hernandez? I'm sure he's also been laboring too. Let's see. Val, Commanders fired Ben Steele. Was hired this offseason. Controversy ensuing there. Nationals fleeced the Red Sox. Yeah, when I saw that, and as we all know, you can never have enough pitching. But for the Red Sox, and I understand a bunch of lefties that they have in their rotation, but come on. I like that kid. He showed a little guts in that playoff game against the Yankees. And even though he only pitched I think he got into the 4th inning at best. But you knew he was going to be on a short leash. But yeah. I don't know. I thought that was a bit of a risk for the Red Sox because Meade, and what does he have? 17 homers? Let me see his numbers real quick. Curtis Meade. $17.48, $254. Yeah, but when you look at his entire baseball card, I mean, he only has 22 career home runs. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah, if you would have asked me any of those other guys, if you would have asked me CJ Abrams, which I get it. And even though he's been rumored, which is nuts, like why would the Nationals, as they're trying to build for the future, why would they even trade CJ Abrams? Or James Wood for that matter? Why? To me, that absolutely makes zero sense. Let's see. Yeah, and look at James Wood's numbers. James Wood has what? 30 home runs. I mean, come on. He's 30-72, 271. Abrams is 297, 27-82. I mean, geez. And Curtis Meade was 17-48. Luis Garcia Jr., 21-70. I mean, this team can mash. And this is without, I mean, he's in a lineup. Dylan Cruz, who was supposed to be the best out of all the prospects. The right fielder. Unreal. Yeah, I saw this headline earlier. Wonder what that's about. Oh, hang on. Yeah, Sellers. LeBron isn't Jordan, but for Lenny Dykstra. Gonna bring up that or Pete Rose. Hey, listen, if LeBron is Pete Rose, I mean it's still pretty good. Brissett, yeah, I saw that. Reached the deal. Yeah, they're gonna have a long year in the desert. Thank you, Val. Yes, I appreciate you, Val. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Bio said it best. They're just going through the motions. Elijah enemy. Oh, geez, is that right? South Florida is finishing. All right. Yeah, I got to watch this. I watched Bryce Harper on that Bustin' with the Boys a while ago. I'll watch this. And listen, Harper, as we all know, does not. No, a lot of the players don't. I'm sure. I get it that the players that are making the big money, they're trying to look after the rank and file. But the rank and file are not going to make anything close to what the Bryce Harpers, the Manny Machados, the Juan Sotos, the Vladimir Guerreros are going to make. That's all there is to it. So the third reliever of the Anaheim Angels, they're not going to get a 3-year, $60 million contract or $69 million contract that Edwin Diaz got. Or, listen, I get it. James Wood is probably going to get that money, or CJ Abrams, but Luis Garcia, yeah, he's going to get money. He's not going to get that type of contract. And this is what the players are lost. And I get it. That union is stronger than any union in the world. And to think, if there's one thing that baseball has over football, is that their union is superior to the NFL. It is. But baseball's got to get this right, as you've heard me say a million times over. And for Harper, if he thinks that, watch. He'll be fine. Because I'm sure he's got enough money in the bank to last him for 100 years, provided that he doesn't have expensive taste. And I understand he can afford it, but you know what I mean. He doesn't have 8 antique cars sitting in his driveway or in his garage. But yeah, I got to watch that. And I'm sure Mookie, listen, I understand those are going to be softball questions. It's not going to be hard hitting, but I want to watch that. And that's no offense to Mookie Betts. But, you know, like here's the one question I would ask Harper. I know it'd be messed up because Mookie Betts has won 4 World Series and Harper hasn't won any. But you could ask him legitimately. Like if I know I had Harper on, and no, not, oh, how did you feel about the Nationals winning the World Series after you left? I mean, he's answered that already. But I would ask him, say, listen, you're going to be 34 years of age in October, and you did play in the 1 World Series, and if you don't happen to make it this year, as your career now, he still has what? He's in his 8th year. He still has 5 more years left on his deal. But are you going to think that the World Series, you may not be able to achieve that goal? It's a legitimate question. Does Mookie Betts ask him that? Yeah, I saw these uniforms, and I hate them. I hate all these alternate uniforms. Any sport. I can't stand them. Val, Mets, what will they do with the trade deadline? I think they're going to trade some players. Peralta is one. We know about Luke Weaver. I'm sure the lefty Brooks Raley. Yeah, nobody's going to want Luis Robert or Jorge Polanco or Brett Beatty for that matter. Maybe they'll take a flyer on Beatty or Vientos. Who knows? But the Mets have a lot to work with, that's for sure. LeBron is 41. His contract was a steal. We'll say that. Yeah, $2 million, $8 million. Makes more than Dorsey. He's the ring chaser. Well, again, Mark, what do you expect? You think he was going to the Bulls? Listen, let him chase his ring. Let him. He did it in Miami. What difference does it make now? What, 15 years later? Spot on about Baltimore. Appreciate that bio. Thank you. Brewers, Giants. Where's Bronny going? Listen, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's probably going to stay there. What does he have? 1 more year left on his contract? I don't even know. Remember, he's a 2nd-round pick. They probably signed a 3-year entry-level deal. I think that's what it was. Who knows? Let's see what he does here this preseason. If he's been working in the gym, owning his shot, the whole 9. He's finished James Dunn. I don't think so. I don't think he is. Listen, he's not going to average 28, 8, and 7, but I don't think he's going to average 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists either. All right, Mark, that's how you feel. I get it. Well, I told Waffle, Pete Rose signed to Phillies and delivered a ring. Doubt LeBron can. Yeah, 1980. Well, they need more depth, but, well, we shall see. Different sports, but yeah. I got you. Bio, Philly doesn't understand the hate. Yeah, I could see that. Well, here's the thing about the Sixers. I don't look at them as like the Heat because that was the whole Chris Bosh we saw and with the press conference. Oh, we can win maybe 4, not 5. And that just turned everybody off because they knew that we were watching a super team in real time and seeing them stumble the way they did that first year. They got up to that slow start. I think they were 500 after 16 games, then got into a groove. Then we know what happened in the postseason, especially against the Mavericks in the finals. And they got embarrassed. And then the following year, the pivotal Game 6 in Boston, Eastern Conference Final. After losing Game 1, they sweep the rest of the finals to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Following year, they come flying out of the gate. Now they become the Heatles. You had the Harlem Shake video. I think it was that year. And they won 27 in a row. Let me see. Was it that year? What year? I think it was 12-13. Yeah, it was the 12-13 season. It was the second season, right, after they beat the Thunder. So that was the year they beat the Spurs. And they won 66 games that year, had a killer year. But wait a minute, why did that pop up? Hold on. But yeah, how I look at it, they probably will end up being a villain, but not in the same ilk like the Miami Heat of yesteryear. Let's see. Yes, she does there. Val. Cover Sports Illustrated. Now, that's not usually start the Sports Illustrated is in February, right? Or do they do that earlier? I don't even know. Anna Kournikova is a favorite tennis player. All right. Yeah, Kournikova, who I believe played in one Grand Slam semifinal. Listen, she did not turn out to be what a lot of people thought. And I know for a long time she was rumored with Sergei Fedorov and even, let me see, Kournikova. And with Ingrid Iglesias. Wait, hold on a second. What is this? I didn't realize. Family of 6, they have 4 kids? Wow. All right. Let's get out of this. Yeah, so Kournikova, as far as the career, yeah, she's made it to one semifinal, Wimbledon. I remember that. And then one Australian quarterfinal. Yeah, she's never done anything. Mark Strickland is great. Oh, you're a fan of Strickland? Too much bluster from him. Philly Sports. Philly Sports on top. Welcome. Hopefully you're still around. Let me see. That was what? You posted that 19 minutes ago. Everyone hated us. Yeah. Well, everyone hated you for the LeBron move? I'm curious. 10 years later, kind of like Manny versus Floyd. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Bio, for that. I had a feeling Anthony Joshua was horrible. Yeah, listen, I'm not a big fan of his. Not that I've watched a ton of his fights. Yep, we saw that there in that first round. And the second knockdown, to me, I didn't even seem that bad, but it is Costas. That's what I thought. With a name like that, I saw that last name. I said, oh, no. That's got to be. You like Ryan Garcia, Mark? I know Gervonta Davis destroyed him. Harper, is he your guy there? Philly sports. So you think the biggest signing was Harper more so than LeBron? I can see that for right now. It's not even a debate. As of now, LeBron wins a title, then yeah, but at this point, it's Harper. No, I agree with that. Philly it is. What up, Philly? Welcome. Kika comes back tomorrow. Edwin Diaz Wednesday. All right. Wasn't Mead on the Rays last year? Yeah, I believe. And then he went to Washington, no? No, he didn't go to Washington. Yeah, how did he get to Washington? Let's look at that. Let's see. Yeah. Now, how about this? You ready? It's funny. Remember how I was talking about the Rays, how they get all these trades, the Randy Rosarenas, and they make the smartest Junior Caminero. Well, I forgot about that. Do you know who, when the Rays, he was originally with the Phillies. Now, this is going back pre-pandemic. But do you know he was traded for Christopher Sanchez? Imagine him on the Rays right now. Yeah, he was with the White Sox last year. Yeah, and then was traded to the Nationals before the start of the season, or really right after, 28th. And then gets traded. Yeah, to me, that was a risk. I wouldn't have traded him. I wouldn't have traded Connolly, that is. Connolly early. Waffle Line. CA was sent down 2 years ago because of his gambling. Oh, that was in Chicago. I remember that. Yeah, that was wild. He was in Chicago. They played the Cubs, and he went out. I think he showed up at like 8:30 in the morning. And it was toward the end of the season, too. If I'm not mistaken, that was like in the middle of September. Well, Harper's getting like 20 million, so compared to those other contracts, he's on the lower end. Yeah, he is. I agree with you, Philly. Oh, Mark, no, he didn't do dinner at Denny's. Yeah, I agree. So I agree. So we hear that waffle. So what's wrong with that? He's a ring chaser. My point. Yeah, I mean, come on. If I said he's not a ring chaser, you guys would be like, Jay Reels, are you still? Oh, thanks, Philly. I appreciate that. Glad you're still here. I'll get you a next comment in a second. Yeah, well, Mark, I got news for you. You say your point, but come on. If I were to come on here and say that, oh, LeBron went to Philly because he's not a ring chaser, he really wants to be with the Sixers, you're gonna laugh at me. You're gonna say, how credible is this guy? You're like, no way. I mean, come on. People just don't like Philly. I know. I'm from New York, too. So, and listen, I got nothing against Philly teams. I understand that. Now, mind you, I'm a Met fan, and I'm not an all New York team lover. So I'm not a Knicks fan, so you don't have to worry about me. I am a Celtic fan, though, but I didn't turn away or run away from not giving the Sixers credit over the last 3 games of that series against the Celtics in the first round. In fact, I destroyed my team from pillar to post. But yeah, I'm not one of those New York fans that, G-men. How do you feel about your Eagles this year? I have another Eagle fan who's not in the room right now, but who's a regular, who's a huge Eagle fan. And I'm curious to know how you feel about your team this year. But Mark, yeah, I mean, come on. We know, listen, and LeBron is 41 years of age. If he's ring chasing now, so what? Who cares? To me, if you're in the middle of your career, look at Kevin Durant. But to me, it's a waste. Wow, you don't even know if you make the playoffs. Wow, really? That's interesting. Listen, I think you guys should make the playoffs. I still think that you're the class of the division. Giants aren't ready to take that step just yet. I understand Harbaugh, but that's the thing. Harbaugh is such an overrated coach. I get it why the Giants went that route. And good for them. They needed to have a guy, the Pat Shermers, the Joe Judges, the Brian Dables of the world were not going to cut it. They needed to have somebody with substance. And they got that. But he's not a great coach, though. And I know he won a Super Bowl. I get it. But Washington, to me, if Jaden Daniels is healthy, I would expect them to have a good year. But is it 12-5 like it was a couple of years ago, or is it 10-7? I think you guys are still the class of the NFC East. And the Cowboys, no. I understand. They've also made some upgrades. New defensive coordinator. Second year for Brian Schottenheimer. I'm sure they'll do well. They'll probably fight it out with you guys. But, yeah, I still see the Eagles winning that division. Let's see. Let's see what's happening in sports. Anything else going on that's worth unpacking? Is this not working? What's happening here? All right, here we go. Yeah, the enemy's wife shot by couple's son at home. I mean, come on. Wait a second. So Ward Manuel gets $7 million in departure deal. Is he done now? Or is it the end of the year? No, at the end of 2026. He'll get paid a lump sum. You knew he was going to get that. I mean, geez. I tell you. Let's see. I know. I haven't seen J-Rod. I wonder how he feels about that. I'm sure I know how he feels about it. Shout out to J-Rod, Fishing Angel. Yeah, that's it. That's what's happening. These 100 games. Wow, 100 games. Jeez, it must be a slow sports day at the worldwide leader. Yeah, I'm on the ESPN landing page, and some of the things are just hysterical. Of course, they got to keep the Cowboys in the mix. Oh, the Cowboys legit Super Bowl contenders? Stop. Brown starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders. I know Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver, came out and he put up the number 4 as if to say that he would want Shedeur Sanders, he would want Deshaun Watson as the starting quarterback because that's the number he wears. If he's healthy, he's starting. They're only paying him $40-some-odd million. Now, he's in the last year of his contract. Let's see that. Contracts. Contract runs through the 2026 season. Yep. And he signed it 2022. Yep, there you go. 5 years. 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed. Nuts. Well, it's the last year of his contract. Hell, he's got to be like 30. Yeah, that's listen. The Browns have issues. No, Cowboys suck. Watson, is he a good player? Watson was a good player in Houston. Won a national championship at Clemson. A lot of people may forget that. But because of the injuries and the off the field stuff, which obviously I'm not going to unpack, but we know that was bizarre. To me, the bottom line is Watson in his final year, he's going to have to show whether or not, forget about being the Browns quarterback, any quarterback with all the injuries, the Achilles, had the shoulder issue. And this year is going to be a showcase to see whether or not that he's going to be able to play in this league. Because if he has a bad subpar year, forget it. He could be a backup, but I don't know if anybody's going to trust him to be a guy that could deliver for him. I feel still confident in the Phillies. I still think they'll slug us on the break. I'm at the phone. Yeah, listen, I think the Phillies. Now, what's going on down there, Philly, as far as the rumor mill is concerned? Are they actually in the middle trying to get whether it's another bat, another arm? I think they need another guy in the rotation, and another bullpen guy would help. What do you see, or what have you heard as far as rumors with the Phillies go? And remember, that window's starting to close. I talked about this, I think, last Monday. Harper's going to be 34. Schwarber, I think, is already 35. Real Muto is, I think, 35. Oh, is that right? Buxton or Trout is the target I've heard. Skulls gets his name thrown around. Scooble. I got you. Yeah, if now Buxton or Trout, center field. Yeah, that center field. Oh, that one kid, I remember he robbed, what's his name, of a home run a few weeks ago at Citi Field. Juan Soto. Yeah, one of those two guys would certainly help. Now, the thing is with Buxton, is he a free agent after this year? Which they probably won't have to give up a lot. And even though I know Trout being from outside of Philadelphia, that would be a huge boon. Here we go. Wait. Average salary, 22 to 28. Oh, no. So he's still under contract until after 28. Byron Buxton. Yeah, I mean, listen, if they get a center fielder, that would certainly help because, well, you got Brandon Marsh, and yeah, their outfield isn't really. Yeah, Derek Hill, that's who it was. Thank you, Waffle Iron. Yep. Could Philly get Scooble? Oh, man, that would be awesome for them. Kyle Shannon, is he going to be week one? I would think so, Val. I would have to think that he'd be. Now, I don't know. Would he be able to fly? We got to see. There's still plenty of time. NFL season starts 6 weeks from Wednesday. Not ready for it. Derek Hill, we got for right in the bat in the outfield. Now, would you want Trout? I'm curious. Justin Crawford's everyday 7 feet before we traded him. Wait, when did he get traded? Oh, before we traded for him. My bad. I can't read. I can read, just not so good. That's Carl Crawford's son. Yeah, if they got a center fielder, that would certainly be an upgrade. You'd love to get Trout, even though I think his contract runs through 2032, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let's see, Trout. Through 2031. 5 years after this year. And let me see, what does... No, through 2030. Yeah, I said 2031, 2030. The funny thing is, he's owed a ton of money, but it's not as bad as you think. 37, 30. He's owed 37 each year for the next 4 years. When you do the math, 74, 148 million. Yeah, but I don't think Trout. I don't know. Listen, who would Philly give up? I mean, and Trout, I would say this: if he went to Philly, if there was one place that he would be rejuvenized, would be there. Now I know you're talking about Sonny Gray. What's this? This is the final year, so it's all in. Listen, with the Marlins falling out of it, I could see Alcantara. So after this week, let's see what the Marlins do in these next 3 games against your team. Sonny Gray, would the Red Sox give up on him? And when I mean give up on him, not to give up on him, but give him up. Considering that they're in the middle of the race, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think the Red Sox would be dumb if they did that. And what is this, Mark? My opinion, Schmidt, Iverson, Rose. All right, what about Will Chamberlain? Philadelphia Warriors. I understand it wasn't the Sixers. Or even Bobby Clark, if you want to go way back. Flyers. Oh, Philly fan needs to calm down just because they got LeBron. I think they're getting screwball. Oh, no. Yeah, I see what you mean by that, Bio. But Bio's going to start a discussion here with he and Philly. Yeah, I thought about Nick Foles, Bio, but because Foles, I mean, you could argue that, but Foles wasn't on anybody's radar as far as him making that impact, and then he had that run there in 2017. You could say that, but yeah, I wouldn't put him up there, not in that category as the biggest sign. I mean, listen, he won a Super Bowl, and he'll be forever remembered. Obviously, part of the Philly special, etc. But yeah, he doesn't rank there. He ranks as far as signings, but because he's not a big name, you know, that's like saying Brad Johnson for Tampa Bay when they won I mean, that was more their defense. Yeah, I'd say no, but you could argue it though. It's certainly debatable. That I agree with in that regard. What is this? 1 or 2, Jay? Are you talking about this? Rocky doesn't count. Maybe he should. As far as like a Mount Rushmore? Yeah, Philly Mount Rushmore. Philly Mount Rushmore, if I thought about that. Well, Bobby Clark is on there for hockey. Yeah, Mike Schmidt, Allen Iverson. Chamberlain. Oh, man. Who else? Yeah, football. Yeah, it's interesting because with football, it's kind of hard. Like, what Eagle? You know, you put Brian Dawkins? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you're not putting Donovan McNabb, Harold Carmichael, Wilbert Montgomery, Bill Berge. I'm going way back with the Eagles. You're not putting Jaworski there. Randall Cunningham, no. Reggie White. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Philly, I don't want Scooble. Yeah, I agree with that. T.O. But T.O. was there for a year and a half. This 1 year was killer, though. The year they went to the Super Bowl, broken leg, the horse collar tackle, Roy Williams. And then actually had a big Super Bowl game. What, he had 9 catches, 122 yards. Yeah, T.O. wasn't there long enough, I think. Oh, look who's in the house. There he is. The novice. I got another Eagle fan here. T.O. and Barkley are both acquisition. Yeah, T.O. wasn't that but wasn't he signed? Free agents, just like Barkley was? They weren't, they were not traded for. Philly Sports on top. Hey, Phillies, is that your channel, Philly Sports? I'm curious. Papa J, what's happening? Welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. If you are, let me see. Philly Sports on top. Oh, this is you right here. Yeah, is that a picture of Harper? Have you started going live? I guess you have, right? Because you got 50 subscribers. Have you put up a lot of content? I'm checking out Philly Sports on top here. It's been a while. Let's see. All right. My little cousin posts things on my account, so don't mind it. All right. So you don't really post that much there, Philly, huh? Mark back at it with his comments. Always wrong, always correct. No, not much. All right. So it's your little cousin then. Well, no, so I'm glad you hopped on board though. Because yeah, I talk all sports, I'll talk Philly, I'll talk, whatever. As I'm sure you've gotten to see over the last however long it's been since you've been on. And I appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate you do so. Because I also host a live stream Wednesdays at 12 Eastern, another podcast on Thursdays, post stuff in between. Got to get out to Philly too. I know somebody lives outside of Philly, but I like to get there maybe before. Now the Mets are already done in Philly for the year. Oh, Nnamdi Asomugha. Yeah, that was a bad one. Bryce Huff too. Yeah. Asomugha for sure. Asomugha was a guy that was all pro with the Raiders. And he went to Philly and for whatever reason regressed big time. And then where did he go after that? Did he go one more place and then was offered to retirement? No, I remember that. Nnamdi Asomugha. All right, let me see. Hold on. Let's go back. No, that's not working. Hold on. All right. He's an actor without money. With your money? Yeah, go in there, Val. Val's on top of it. Wait, is that? Yeah, I know he's an actor director. Is he still married to Kerry Washington, I believe? Ah. Yeah, guess what? What is this? I guess what? I don't have content, nothing posted, so you're correct on that. Tell your cousin that. What should I tell my cousin? I don't know. My guy Brodus Media is the best Philly podcaster. Yeah, I gotta look him up too. Oh, he's not making moves to the Eagles. $60 million we paid him. Right. Yeah, it was toward the tail end. Yeah, no, he was obviously he was very good, but yeah, he fell off a cliff after that. Brodus Media. I gotta look at that. There he is. And I think the novice sent me Brodus Media too, if I'm not mistaken. Our takes are allowed. Subscribe to the takeover. Yeah, I know. He's got a pretty decent setup there. I know, and that's the other thing too. I'm working on graphics, people. Not just the graphics that you see here. I'm actually working on a template for the channel. So, yeah, I would think by the start of the NFL season, especially that NFL preview. Yeah, time has come, man. Yeah, I'm looking at his channel now. I gotta check him out. Brody's Media. I mean, it's the entire NFL versus the Dodgers. Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, the Dodgers are looking great. I think. I know you lost a tough series to them last year. Don't believe in the Brewers. The Cubs aren't going to beat them. And let me see. Do the Cubs play the Dodgers again? I think they may be done with them. I remember last year they were done early because they played in overseas and then they concluded their both series rather early. I'll have to look at this. So Sixers welcome LeBron. I guess he had a press conference today. Hold on. Bio telling the Philly sports Dodgers repeat loading. Yeah, they are. Obviously, they're the team to beat. I mean, that's only some of the things. Listen, listen, it could happen. I mean, it is sports. Anything could go. You know, how close they were from losing Game 7 to the Blue Jays, and then we know about the Padres the year before that, down 2-1. Let me see. Yeah, what the hell? I forgot what I was looking for. Let me see the 76ers. Yeah, I'm looking at this. All right. I guess he hasn't had it yet. LeBron. There's just some talk there. Got the jersey hanging, whatever. All right. Would have given you the person for all of it, but sneaky distance will make it possible today. What are you referring to? Would have given you the person for all of it, but sneaky distance. How am I making sneaky distance? I am not. Eagles' best trade was trading my Carson Wentz because we got A.J. Brown. Cooper DeJean. Yeah. I know. It's interesting. If Wentz didn't tear his ACL at the LA Coliseum, and I'll never forget, that game was in December 2017. I was in Pittsburgh that day because I was Steelers-Ravens Sunday night, and the 4:00 game was Philly at LA. And I remember that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was on a 4th and 1 on a quarterback sneak where he tore his ACL. Jay, will best be more exciting as a trade deadline. No, they will not. They will not be more exciting there, Val. I'm sorry to say that. Philly Dodgers series last week. Yeah, I remember the bunt play. They got out at third there in the 8th inning of game 2. I mean, but that's the difference between teams that win and teams that don't. No, that would have been, I mean, that was a competitive series. And if I'm not mistaken, in game 3, no. Game 3, I know the Phillies won. I think it was like 7-2. But game 2, well, the Phillies, I think they were up 3-1. No, I think they were up 3-0 in the 8th inning. And maybe it was the 7th inning. Kiker Hernandez had a 2-run single. And then they tied the game. And it took the lead in the 8th inning before. Let me look that up. Where's it? Yeah, this isn't coming up. My luck. Hold on. Braves activate Acuna today. Yeah, I can't find this thing. Hold on. All right. Yeah, I can't find it. Oh, no, wait. Hold on a second. Yeah, I can't find it on this page, but let me see. Because I go to Baseball Reference. Sometimes I get lost on there. There we go. Playoffs. All right, here's the box score. Ready? No, I need the play-by-play, though. Did I have the play-by-play here? Oh, here we go. Wait, what were those runs scored? Was it in the 8th inning? Here I'm breaking down this game. Oh, there was no score. They scored 4. That's what it was. They scored the 4 runs in the top of the 7th. I thought they were down 3-0. Wait, what about the previous game? Yeah, they were down 3-0 in the previous game, and then they got the 2 runs. Right. That may have been the game, the Kiker Hernandez. Hold on. So 6th inning. Yeah, I got to make sure I get my facts straight. Yep, here it is. It was in a game 1, 6th inning. Hernandez double the left line drive. Freeman scores. Edmonds scores. Yeah, I got my games mixed up. All right. I could exhale. Yes, they are. Mistakes are part of the game. More computer nerds. Yes, you know a few. Yes, lucky you, Val. Nah, it's actually sunny here. Get that mistakes are part of the game, but the whole team seemed like they were on that whole series. You talking about the Phillies team behind that whole series? When Orion Kirkering threw that ball to the backstop to end the game, game 4. Yeah. All right, I think that'll do it. Let me see. Is there anything else going on? Yeah, guys, if anything else going on, let me know. Yeah. Yeah, Philly, I tell you, that game 1, I listened 3-0, and they gave it up. And then that was a tough loss. They gave up those back-to-back innings, the 2 runs and the 3 runs to follow up. And then the play, I know the bunt play in game 2 was tricky. And then obviously they had a lead in game 4 because they were up 1-0. And then they walked in, I think it was Ohtani, was it not? To tie the game. Mark always has to go to the well with Hal Morris. Yeah, we know the answer to that. No need to get into that. Zero need. All right, guys. I'm going to start to land this plane. I don't think anything else is going on sports-wise, but we all know Wednesday live stream. In fact, I'll start to land it here, but I'll get to your comments. So please, whatever's on your mind, keep posting. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what's going on with any of your thoughts. But yeah, I'll start to land this plane here by saying that'll do it. Another episode just about in the books. As always, thank you so much for passing by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the toy department of life, otherwise known as sports. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel here on YouTube at J Reels, as well as whatever podcast platform you listen to, Apple, Spotify. As you know, throw me a few stars, write a review, increase the profile of those audio platforms as well as YouTube. Again, this is true passionate sports talk. None of this clickbait, rage bait garbage that you may see on other channels or other podcast platforms. You know, I'm going to give it to you straight. You know, I'm going to always come from a perspective of nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury, with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens on all of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from wherever whoever you are, the J Reels podcast always comes live, correct, direct, and in full effect. In the blood, in the DNA, as you already know, people. From the South Bronx to South Beach, to South Central to South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. See you Wednesday, high noon Eastern time, right here on the channel. Until next time on the J Reels podcast, on the flip, baby. Now, that's what happens to teams when they play the Dodgers to get scared. Yeah, the thing is that they can't make mistakes. And when they have opportunities, if you give them extra outs or, yeah. Oh, what is this? I was at Game Over the Dodgers last year. Oh, really? Yeah. And that was in the, what? After Hernandez made it 3-2, that was what, in the 7th inning when that happened? I think I still have the box score up, do I not? Yeah, that's a tough series. That was a tough series. And their window's closing as far as their title hopes. posting a picture of Hal Morris on first base as a base runner is working, or when he had his glove on, holding on a runner at first. That counts too there, Mark, but I'm not going to go there. We already know who played in that game. Been there 1,000 times. Thank you, Papa J. Appreciate that. Hang on. Get your comment up here. Mark with his Bussies comment. Come on. Really? Something like that? Oh, hang on. Yeah. Yeah, their core is old. Their core is old. They got to do something. This is a big year. I don't know if they go after Scooble, though, but like you said, you don't think it's going to happen? Mark, I already have, and we've been down this road before. Please. If you're so sure. How about this, Mark? You want to put your money where your mouth is? If you're so sure about it, bet your life savings. I'll bet mine against it. I did watch the game, but anyway, you're not getting me. Put your money where your mouth is. I'll send you my Venmo because you're going to be wrong. Tosca might be on the move. Is that the rumor you're getting there, Bio? Now, my thing is that I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know if would they do that. Maybe I could see after the regular season. What has his numbers been this year? I know I was at the game, and you think I was paying attention to his numbers. There we go. Yeah, that's subpar. 837, but I know he's missed time, did he not? Yeah, he's only played in 71 games. Yeah, he's a dangerous hitter, though. I mean, he's always come up in big spots. You'll bet 1K right now? Yeah? And you'll send it to my Venmo when you're wrong? What game we're talking about? Game one? I can't believe he's going to take me down this road. Hey, listen, for $1,000, I'm going to have to, he's going to have to eat it. Let's have some fun here. Waffle Iron's probably saying, no, don't do it. Hey, he's putting money out here. Let's go. I don't want to hear that nonsense. Jose Canseco. All right, hang on. Hey, for $1,000, come on, man. All right, let's move this over. All right, stand by. Wait a minute. Hal Morris is a pinch hitter. Yes. Entire series, you're wrong. Don't do it. It is right. Show footage. Well, I know. He's making me do this again. But he's putting his money where his mouth is. So that's why. What is this? He's requesting to bypass the system private. No, just this time. All right, Mark Sammons, are you watching? Let's get me. Hold on. See what this says here? 1990 World Series, Game 1. Riverfront. I don't want to play the audio because I don't want to get copyright. The introductions. Derek Davis. Oh, who's that guy right there running out there? What does that say there, my man? Read that right there. Hal Morris, first base. And you see right here in the bottom, Oakland Athletics at Cincinnati Reds, 1990 World Series, Game 1, October 16th, 1990. Hal Morris, first base. Introduction, that's Lou Piniella. That's Barry Larkin. That's Billy Hatcher. That's Paul O'Neill. Next to him was Eric Davis, batting fifth in your lineup. Hal Morris, first base. You could send that money, Mark Salmons. You could send that money to my Venmo account, which I'll copy and paste it right here. $1,000. Stand by. Why isn't this coming up? Oh, here we go. Oh, that's right, because I took it out before. Damn it. Show footage, you won't find it. Can you open your eyes? What do you see on screen there, Mark? Show footage, you won't find it. What is that? What is that on the screen? Wait, hang on. Let me do this. You ready for this? Let me maximize it. Thank you, Philly. Pay up. I don't expect you to pay, Mark, but I'm wrong. Yeah, the guy who says he speaks facts. I got to pull this out one more time. And this will be the last time, I promise you guys, as I'm looking into the camera. You see, this will be the last time. Thank you, Val. How am I wrong? What is this? Again. Mark, you're not high, are you? See what this is? Look, you see me circling this around here? Oakland Athletics, Cincinnati Reds, 1990 World Series, Game 1, October 16, 1990. Here's the introductions. You see me circling right here? Lou Piniella. You see how the cursor's getting big? That's Lou Piniella. That's Barry Larkin. That's Billy Hatcher. That's Paul O'Neill. Next to him was Eric Davis, as you saw him run out. And right here, Hal Morris, first base. Mark, stop it. End of story. I'm not even entertaining this anymore. I know I said I probably was going to do this once upon a time, but hey, he said, I'll bet 1K. All right. Sounds good. 1K. Let me pull up the Venmo account. You think he might be? Anyway, I'm not entertaining this anymore. You can say whatever you want, Mark. You can say whatever you want. Challenge me to watch the game. Okay. All right. End of story. So let's see where we're at here. Philly, are you from Philly? Well, what part of Philly are you from, if I may ask? South Philly? North? I don't have to tell me exactly where, but I'm just curious. Oh, Val, she's good. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. Oh, I did and then some, but again, it's, consider the source. Nice. No, he didn't pay up. Well, you have wrong. End of story. Nah, and I appreciate you hopping on the channel there, Philly. Hopefully you come back for more. Oh, stop. Oh, you're grand. Please. I showed you that and everybody in the room saw it. Give me a break. Next. So UNC places top bill. Oh, Michael Lombardi? What happened to him? UNC announced Monday that Lombardi's leave is effective immediately, but did not disclose any other details. Uh-oh. The school's decision stems from a human resources complaint filed by a former UNC front office employee. Ew. Mike Lombardi. And Lombardi's good. I mean, he's been on podcasts before. Bill Simmons, whatever. That guy knows football. What he did here, who the hell knows? Eesh. And let's face it, Belichick, come on. You know it's a slow news day when ESPN puts this out. You ready for this? Would the U.S. actually win the World Cup if its best athletes played soccer? And in the photo, they have Josh Allen, LeBron James, and Lamar Jackson. Come on, guys. You got to come up with something better than that. You got to come up with something better than that. Yeah, Philly don't, but yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. No, he has not, Val. Oh, yes, he has not been. I'm not going to buy into those comments, Mark. Even if you said you'll gladly pay, but please. Listen, I already showed you he's in the line. I could play the whole game on here and you'd still find a reason to say that you're right. So I'm not going there. Anyway, I guess with that being said, people, maybe it's time for me to sign off until Wednesday. All right. I appreciate everybody hopping on board today. You know how much I love your support and your carving out precious time out of your day to watch. So, yes, Wednesday, high noon, back at it. Much appreciate you all. And you already know your source for all the sauce in the world of sports right here. Made by a lifelong sports fan, yours truly, for you guys and gals, sports fans. So, until Wednesday, everybody, peace, love, and God bless. Until then, on the flip.